Podcast Network. My name is Mike Gilmer, and a podcast engineer uh, here, and we're excited to have another episode of the Aspie Bridge show with Suzanne Plumley. So I'm gonna hand it over to her to get us kicked off.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. I so appreciate that. Oh, let me tell you, sometimes it really is a big help to have an introduction so we know when to start because that is what makes us feel less anxious. Let me go into my tagline as I usually do every week. With all the wonderful Aspie individuals out there across the internet on YouTube who are telling us what autism is, such as Paul Mikulev in Australia and Sam in Europe and Sarah Hendricks in the UK. And of course, we can't forget Temple Grandin as our main mentor for helping us see that life goes beyond just being autistic. We can get to the other side of the bridge and be successful and fulfilled and love our life. We don't have to stay on the victim side. We don't need to stay isolated from the rest of the world because we can do this. So I'm going to start my usual with an eighth grade story because today's topic is staying safe in an unauthentic world. And I'll tell you what that means in a moment. But let me start with my eighth grade story. Back in eighth grade, I received a letter. Well, we all know what eighth grade is like, trying to belong and get that first boyfriend and such. And I didn't know I was autistic at the time. This is a late diagnosis after we've all graduated from school. So I didn't know I was autistic at the time, but I received this letter from a boy who says he really wants to date me and he would love to get together with me at lunch. So I walked over and I said, "So Charles, I heard you want to get together with me." And he looked at me with the most surprised look. I didn't write that letter. Well, that's what we would call an unauthentic relationship because it wasn't coming from the person it intended to come from. It was coming from someone else. Now, this technology age is quite the thing that we're now dealing with all the time, not just in a letter from an eighth grade boy who might or might not be interested. I think what my friends were thinking back then is he was pretty shy and I was shy, so why not a blind date? But it didn't quite work out that way. Let's go into my future as I am now, and I've had so many relationships where they weren't quite what they had intended to be, unauthentic, meaning perhaps these individuals meant well. And that's why I say unauthentic versus fake. There are some fake people out there. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But maybe they didn't know who they were either. Maybe they were trying to try on a relationship, but they didn't go about it the right way. So what does my topic have to do? Staying safe in an unauthentic world is all about knowing who we're talking to. And in this world of technology where it's a lot of words, but not a lot of Zoom, not unless you're making an intentional invitation to have a Zoom, but there are a lot of words that go across Facebook and across the internet pretending to be have an interest in you. Stay safe, ladies. Stay safe. Don't allow yourself to get excited by the words because the words can be empty. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. As I say, what is the difference between unauthentic versus fake? Well, unauthentic might be an individual who does have an interest in us, but doesn't quite express it quite the way we would like to have it expressed. They, in a sense, they might be a mask as well because they're nervous about asking us to go for dinner or something. And perhaps they need to have a little help from their friends. Now, who's to say what's authentic and what's unauthentic? Well, let me tell you, it comes down to your core values. And when I say that, you need to know that there are some relationships out there where the intention is not to get to know us in our heart. It is to find a way to get to our bodies. We're all adults here, and maybe a sexual interest they have, or it may be to try to get to our money. And those are the two times when the relationship is fake. That is what I call fake. That's not unauthentic. Unauthentic is when the person has as many anxieties as we have to speak to us directly in a language that we would prefer. I'm hoping that that's clear to all of you. Fake means that they don't really have a true interest in you, they just want what they want from you. Okay, let's talk about the core values. First thing you want to say is whether or not they're scared or not, does this person have a true interest in the way you speak, in the way you think, what matters to you, what your interests are? Do they like to do the same things you like to do? If you love to go bike riding and they hate it, well, that's not really something that, and they pretend to like bike riding, that's not really authentic, is it? So you really need to make sure the person has an interest in what you have an interest in. That's going to be your first key. If you love to go bike riding and they prefer to sit on the couch, well, we'll get to that core value later. But for now, you need to make sure that the person has a true interest in what your heart loves. Are they an artist too? Are they a sports person? Do they like the things you like? Do they like the way you think? Do they like some of the thoughts that matter to you? Some of the different ideas that matter to you? If they're only liking you because your eyes are pretty, beware. Beware, because that's not always true. This is a grabber. This is what they try to do to grab your attention, and you want to be really clear about that. I was once on a telephone call with someone for 2 weeks. And when I got to the restaurant, his whole jaw dropped. I'm like, wait a minute. You liked what I said on the phone, but you don't like the way I look? Now, there is a classic case of someone who wanted more of my exterior to fit his image, not my heart. Be aware, listen carefully, and watch their facial expressions as I did in that case. You need to make sure that they're not stuck on the external look of what you look like. You want someone who really gravitates to some of the ideas you have, some of the things that light you up and make you smile. That's a true person. Let's go on to the next one, active listening. You don't want someone who's going to spend the entire date talking about themselves, do you? I know I don't. You want someone who can follow your conversation and stay in line with what you're talking about, and you can stay in line with what they're talking about. I wrote a book, and I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. I wrote a book where I kind of put up this classic case of the guy who said, "Oh, I love to play basketball with the neighborhood kids." And then you say, "Well, I just love kids. Let's go and play basketball with them." And then if the guy is like, that kind of means that he's trying to say something that's not really true about what he enjoys. I mean, you need to be authentic there, not to grab your attention, but active listening is all about going back and forth and being on the same topic and being truthful about that. Like in that basketball story, I mean, if someone is just saying something to try and get your interest, that's not really truth. That's just saying what they think you want to hear. They might have even heard that you were into children first, and so they thought they might put that in as a grabber. Well, be very aware of that. Not saying run, that's not an occasion to run away from them. Just be aware. Be aware of what he's saying. Be aware of his facial reactions. Because that's going to be the key as to whether or not he is being truthful or close to truthful in what he talks about. Now, maybe you're both sailors. Maybe you like to go sailing and you do talk on the same topic and he knows the jargon and he knows where the best places to go sailing. Now that's someone that's a little different. That's someone that you two have a common interest. He knows all about it. He can speak on it. You can have a conversation that goes back and forth. He's not trying to interrupt you. You're not trying to interrupt him. The conversation is an easy flow back and forth. That would be called active listening. You're being very mindful not to interrupt each other, and you're following the same topic. The third one, smart money management. Oh, ladies, this is a big one for us. And I say that because there are so many people on Facebook and in the internet who will pretend to have a wonderful relationship with you. And I even baited a guy one time because I was curious to see. I didn't really believe that he wanted me. I think he was fishing. And I was just saying, okay, how long before he starts asking for money? Sure enough, he got out to Paris, as he said he was going to be, and he needed me to buy an American Express card for him. Hmm, that would be a time to run. Ladies, don't ever give your money to someone who acts like they're in desperate need. I know that sounds obvious, and I'm not trying to tell you that you wouldn't be aware of that, but you'd be surprised how many people are gullible to that kind of emergency, I need your help plea from a guy. Well, that going to the idea of smart money management, one, he hasn't planned appropriately, or two, he's thinking that you're going to be his free ride whenever he needs help. And when I talk about the emotional side of money next week, you'll understand more about what this is all about. But again, money, like in conversation, has to go back and forth, equal. It's not for him to come to you and ask you for money within 2 weeks of a relationship. I don't think so. Run the other way. That's a red flag, ladies. Do not give any money to someone you've met only 2 weeks ago. That is not smart money management. I'll tell you more about smart money management next time, but you really want someone who will plan. Now, maybe he'll ask you to put down a tip if you go out for dinner. That's okay. If he's willing to pay the majority of the meal, sure. And I would even say you might even offer to pay the tip. But someone who expects you to pay the whole dinner after inviting you out for dinner, don't go that way. Whoever's doing the invitation is doing the paying too. That doesn't mean you can't offer. It just means don't get left with the bill. Be very careful. And it might happen once or it might happen twice. After the second time, be very aware of that kind of a person who is maybe not giving you the best idea. Or if you're not quite sure what kind of person he is, go somewhere where you can afford, such as a coffee. That's okay. That's not that much. Or an ice cream. Don't go out for dinner because one, you don't know where you're going for dinner, and two, you don't know what the prices are. Plan smartly with your money. If you want to offer to go out for a coffee instead, that would be okay. Say no, no, no restaurant right now, but I'm willing to try out that new coffee joint or whatever. And I wouldn't recommend a bar either. You want him to be at his full thinking self. No alcohol the first date. What you do after that when you get to know him, that's a different story. But really try not to have his thinking skills impacted by a, a, a drink or something that might change the way he thinks or act. That's why I say coffee or ice cream. That might be an appropriate way to get to know what kind of a person he is. Can you hold the conversation during that? If you get the coffee and then look at each other, well, that might not be the best person for you. And just say, I've had a lovely time. The other nice thing about coffee or ice cream is it doesn't last very long. Once the coffee is done, you can say, hey, I have a meeting over across the street or whatever. But you get the point. The first few dates should be short and brief. Don't go the whole time. Another interesting thing. One day I went to a restaurant and I had a whole bouquet of flowers given to me, roses. I was a little overwhelmed. I didn't know how I felt about this person, and to receive a whole bouquet of flowers was a bit much. Be aware of that kind of person. What are they really after? Yes, a whole beautiful bouquet of flowers sounds good, but think about the underlying meaning that might come from it. A single rose. Now, there is a man who thinks carefully. A single rose says, I'd like to get to know you better. And if it's yellow or pink, even better. Something about a red rose is just giving the wrong message the first or second date. As you go on, you've been together for 6 months, it's your birthday, whatever, that may be a different story. But be aware of the flowers the very first date. It's just something to think about. Don't go running, just think about it. The next thing, is he emotionally and legally available to date? Wow, that's a big one. Well, I knew there was something up with my husband. I wasn't sure what it was. I came to understand later on the truth about where his heart was. That's all I'm going to say. But he wasn't emotionally available for a wedding date. He had some work to do on his own heart. And if you're not sure, they'll sometimes come off as being flamboyantly or grandiose or such, and you just want to be aware of watching them as your time goes. Try not to give too much information. Keep it very basic. If you're not sure, the amount of information you give, private information, is going to be kept in their minds. And I want you to be careful. You don't want to give too much information within the first month of dating someone. Because if it goes south, they have all that information. Maybe they may not remember it completely, but that's even worse. You don't want to give private information the first month of your relationship. And that is where I'm going to put it there. Being emotionally, are they okay with their heart? I'm not saying are they nervous. If they're stuttering or if they're like a little frazzled, they may be nervous about this date too. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the individual that may go over the top to try and pretend that they aren't nervous or they're not feeling on edge. And that's the person you want to be careful of, not the person who's nervous. And that's really interesting to know because the person who thinks that they have it all together is probably more challenged than the person who is nervous. So just watch for those signs. Are they going over the top in a grandiose way? Are they making promises that a month later they're not keeping? And the first date is not going to be the best way unless they're asking for money or they're asking for you to go to the bedroom. The first month is a good indicator of where they're going to be 6 months down the road. So just be aware of these things. Stay safe. Stay safe. There's far too many women, and maybe you're not one of them. And I'm congratulate you because it means that you've been thinking carefully all along who the best person for you is. But there are some women that do get excited by having a relationship start, and some of these thoughts go out the window. I'm just asking you to be very much aware of who you think you're going to go and date. Why are we bringing this up after doing all these interviews, these podcasts about work? Well, now that you've gotten into the workforce, you're going to be approached by different people you haven't met before, people that you haven't gotten to know before. Just because you work with them does not mean that they are the best person for you. Just because you work alongside them at the next desk doesn't necessarily mean that you can trust them. You've got to treat them on an out of work basis. You've got to be aware of your own needs. And that's why I call these core values. Legally, there's no such thing as an open marriage, ladies. And let me tell you, I fell for that one too. You know, try and stick it that if he's dating and he says, "Oh, I have an open marriage." No, no, that is a red flag. You don't want to go there. If he is committed to someone else, you have to let him go. About a year ago, I had someone who was trying to put me into a competition between another possible date. You can let him go too. He's not going to be the best person for you either. You don't want to be in competition. If someone truly likes you, they won't have someone on the side that they're comparing you to. Say thank you, but no thank you. Because you want them to be legally and morally in your corner, not comparing you between two other people. No, no. Or even one other person. That's not the best place for us Aspies. We need someone who is dedicated to who we are. And I want to keep you safe there. Legally ready to date. Oh, another situation. And I'm going to bring this up in my book in a moment. Be very aware of the widow or the recently widowed individual. Sometimes they want you to take care of their children. They're not really into a relationship with you. They just want you to take care of their children. Be very aware. He's not emotionally ready yet either. At least 1 year before you consider that one. I had a gentleman who was recently widowed, working supposedly over in Afghanistan as a medic. His son was in England, and he wanted me to go to England to be his son's mother. Nope. I dropped the phone line at that time. Not worth it. Now, you might think, man, she's gotten into a lot of gullible situations. I want to say in the beginning, perhaps it was. Perhaps it was. But then I started doing research. As I said, with the guy who was asking money, how long before he's going to start asking money? And I did this to protect all of you. The research was to get to see what I needed to pass on for information to all of you. If someone's asking for money, if someone wants you to go to the bedroom. Oh, another interesting thing. If they get too personal right away, oh, honey, how was your night? Did you sleep well? Uh, Good morning. How are you today? Would you like a cup of coffee? Would you like some eggs? That would be more appropriate. Oh, honey, you look great in the morning. Yeah, don't think so. Say thank you, but no thank you. And just keep walking because that's not going to be someone who's in for your heart. I think you know that. I know this is funny, and I know this can be the way I'm putting it can be really, oh, really? I know that. And as I say, for some of you women, you've got this all figured out. Don't let me insult your intelligence. But there are some women who are having trouble or may have not have had a relationship for so long that they finally find someone who pretends to have an interest in them and they fall hook, line, and sinker. Those are the women I really want to help to remember to take your head and your brains with you, and you have them. I know you do. I know you do. Let's go on to the very last core value, but let me recap first. Seeing your thoughts and your values as important, that's a good sign. Being able to carry on a conversation back and forth like a tennis game, where you're talking about the same thing and they have a knowledge of what you're talking about because they can speak the language of it, very important. Smart money management. Hey, I'd love to take you out for dinner, but I'd also would like to stay in my budget. Is that a problem for you? No, that's very smart. If they don't take you out to a five-star restaurant the first time, they're being a smart money manager. Being emotionally and legally ready. Do they have someone on the side? And do they act in an appropriate, partially nervous way for the first month that you're dating? Because if they go over the top and overcompensate, that's not a true measure of who they are. So the last one, leisure time activities. Are you a nature person? Do you love to go out and go hiking, go bike riding, go canoeing, do all sorts of things? And when you come home from work and you call him up and he says, "Yeah, I'm just watching TV tonight." Okay, what about Sunday? Yeah, my favorite team's on. Fine, I get it. How about next Friday? Well, the guys are getting together. We're going to play video games. Well, it doesn't sound like that's the type of person that wants to be out doing all sorts of activities, does it? This may be my core value, and maybe you are into video games or watching TV. Please, just make sure that what you love doing in your leisure time matches what he loves doing. If you want to be outside and doing all sorts of work, like I love to do carpentry and be outside at times, and he just wants to sit and watch TV, well, I think you have your answer there. Where do all these core values come from? Well, let me tell you first, Seth. Back in 2020, when we were all shut down and isolated in our own homes with COVID, I took a book that I've been working on for a while. And I really said, I really want to help people. I want to be the guiding light for them. I want to really help women who feel like they keep getting into these relationships that aren't safe. So I decided I was going to take all my relationships and put them into a book. Now, I didn't put the book under my name because I wanted to keep the um, animosity. Yeah, I want to keep my family and all the men that I had dated their names private. And I did change their names, but I also changed my name. Ellen T. Reed is my book. And I wrote it based on these core values. And I also brought up the different stories that I'm talking about today to give you examples of what. Oh, let me hold the book up again just so in case you want to see it. I wrote all about these different scenarios, but I also want to give you an idea of what kind of person to watch out for. And sometimes words are great, but if you don't have an example of what I experience written in there, sometimes it's hard to know if this particular gentleman, man, whatever you, excuse me, whatever you want to call him, are right for you. And I kind of gave you an example of what some of these different guys are. Now, I wrote it for the Christian soul, but that can be more the spiritual soul. And I'd like to read you a little bit of it because I think it's important in this technology age to know where I'm coming from. I'm not against people that you might meet in a special group on the internet. But I want you to be very aware of the men who approach you who are not part of your groups. Let me read you a little bit about what I wrote in here. I'm a modern woman and I appreciate technology and especially video conferencing and I love to talk on the phone with my daughters with um, FaceTime. That's a part of technology I love, and I love Zoom. But you know what? When it comes to dating, I'm old fashioned. And I really want people to realize that it's because we can't see the person who's writing to us that we need to really be careful. Let me read this next thing. I'm astounded by the thought processes that leads men to capture and engage a woman's attention. Of course, every man would argue that he's a good, kind, and possibly spiritual man. If he attends some, if he attends some sort of spiritual gathering, but I hesitate to tell him that his character, not his attendance, is what makes a big difference on who he is. A lot of men will say to you, I go to church every Sunday. Well, what is he doing Monday through Saturday? Think about that. When you're talking to him, just say, hey, what are you up to tonight? See what he answers. You want to be very careful of the kind of person that you are attracting. Perhaps write down some of the um, traits you would like to see in him because that's going to bring attention to the type of person you want to attract. And that will help enormously. Some people say 50, and I think that that's not bad. I actually say write down your core values of what you want an individual to be attracted to you. Because when you have core values, you can measure them whenever you go on a date. Does he do this? Does he do that? You're not saying it out loud. You're just being aware. Notice what you're noticing. Being aware of how he acts. Is he overcompensating? You really want to decide your own core values. What kind of a person are you attracting? Put your attention on that kind of person and see if he measures to what you want. Not every man is for every woman. I heard a cute statement in a movie one day that says every pot has its cover. Well, when you go into your kitchen, not every pot will fit every color cover, does it? So there's a special person for you. Not any person will do. Be very careful in who you select. The challenge of being Aspie. And this is what I find for me. It may not be for everybody, but I want people to be honest. And I expect people to be honest with who they are. That doesn't mean I expect them not to be nervous. But if they are going to say something with conviction, I want them to follow through with it. I don't want them to say it because they think I want to hear it. I want them to have their words be with conviction. If they say they're going to take you out for an occasion that you are looking forward to and then they never show up, well, then their words are empty. And I would say if they do it once and they don't call you with an apology before or during or after that time when you're supposed to be together, you might want to walk away then. But let's say they show up the first time and then the second time something does happen. Take it in, find out what they're saying. If it becomes a routine, you really want to step back. You may or may not want to end it right there, but just remember that at the end of the month, if he's doing this perpetually, of telling you he's going to show up and he doesn't, that's your red flag, ladies. Don't go there. Just say thank you, but no thank you. I've had enough. Next. So we expect people that we can trust. And that goes back to our unauthentic versus fake. Are you who you say you are? Are you personifying someone else? We get awfully trapped by these catfishers because we can't see them in their words. Try and go with Zoom or try and meet at a mutual place where other friends of yours are. Stay safe. Never, ever get on an airplane or on a bus and meet them somewhere without taking someone along who can be there for you. That is being safe. Meeting someone in another two states, another town, another country without really knowing them is not a good idea. Stay safe. Now, let me talk about manipulation for a moment. Do they always expect you to go to their house? Do they expect you to always do something that you're not comfortable doing? That's a form of manipulation. That is trying to get you to go their direction all the time. Go to their house, go to their favorite restaurant, go to their. And if that is a relationship to them, you don't need that. That is manipulation. Are they coming halfway each time? Are they going back and forth? Maybe it's your idea of a favorite movie, maybe it's his idea of a favorite restaurant. Are you going back and forth so that both of your interests are being met? If you're doing all the giving and he's doing all the taking, that is manipulation. Don't go there. Even if he's the cutest guy, even if he has the best car, no, not worth it. Stay safe. Now, one last topic I want to talk about. This isn't a relationship topic as much as it's getting in trouble on the internet. I recently became a fan of a particular singer that I really liked. And I was giving him some gratitude for his music. I really thought it was great. Another person came on and pretended to be in his crew of people, his social media crew. And let me tell you, they tried to give me his telegram. Let me stop right there for a moment. Telegram, WhatsApp, any site that takes you away from the public, Facebook, is not safe. Don't go to where your your messages are not recorded. Not safe. That's not to say that WhatsApp is not safe or Telegram is not safe. But any time that you are taken away from a public forum such as Facebook to another app, be wary. You don't want to do it. So, anyway, I was just trying to see if this was an authentic person. And so I connected with the Telegraph to see if that was. And we were talking, and the first time he seemed normal. And then the next morning, he said, "How did you sleep? How's your day?" Well, he doesn't need, as a fan, as a musician, to know how I slept. Be very aware of the words that they use in their conversations. If they're getting too personal and they're a person that you admire out in the public, that's your key that they are not who they say they are, that someone else has borrowed their picture and put in a phony connection, a phony link. Be very aware of what you say. Don't give a picture. Don't give any information that you don't want spread everywhere. Be very careful. I can tell you by the time I read that second morning text, I stopped because I already knew it was not a truthful person. Unauthentic connections are not in your best interest. Continue to like the person because a real person is not sending you that kind of a message in the morning. He would be talking about his favorite music or a song or something. He's not going to be asking you, even though it sounds nice. Oh, he cares about my morning. No, no, no. If it is someone that you admire from afar, keep it afar. Don't let him into your personal life. He is trying to get information from you that is dangerous to you. Don't do it. And so, my friends, my ladies, I want you to stay safe. And I've seen so many people, so many women get so excited about a new relationship that they sometimes forget their head. You want to be ultra careful during the first 6 months of a relationship, especially the first month. Are they asking for money? Are they giving you compliments about your body? You don't want that kind of a person. You really don't. If they can't talk about something that you're interested in, be aware. If you ask them a question about sailing because they just brag that they're a sailor and they have no idea what you're talking about, ding ding ding. That's an idea that they don't know what they're talking about. You want to be very careful about that. So, if you want to learn more about some of the different things that are out there, my book is on Amazon. And my name, Ellen T. Reed, Ellen for Bright Shining Light. I always said I was the torchbearer. T for Teresa. I take care of the people who feel like they are getting unjust treatment, like all of you who may feel victimized on this side of the bridge. I want to make sure that you stay safe. But I don't want you to stay here on this side of the bridge. I want you to go over to the other side and have a fulfilling life. Being scared on this side of the bridge is not a fulfilling life. We can help you have a relationship that is safe and fulfilling and based on your core values. I don't want to see you get into trouble. And that's what today is all about. Next week, I'm going to be hopefully bring on a bank coach who will help you. Because when we go out and we get that first job, we get all excited about how we're going to spend our money. And sometimes we want to celebrate. Okay to celebrate, but we need to be very aware of being a smart money manager. And I'm hoping that the person I have in mind will join us next week to help you set up a budget so that, yes, you can have a fun life, but you can also be a responsible person with the money that you're getting. It's exciting to get a new job, but it's also exciting to stay in a matter with money that you can handle. And for that, I want to thank you very much for coming today. If you have any questions, feel free to message me here in the comment section. If you even have something you would like to add to keep other women safe, I'd like you to also put that in the comment section. And please subscribe to this channel. The more women and the more members of society that we can get working together at the top of this bridge, the safer everybody's going to feel. And I'd love to see my Aspie woman feel confident going into society again without feeling taken, rejected, or disregarded as being disabled. Thank you so much for coming today, and I hope to see you next week. Goodbye.